Good morning and happy Wednesday. When I left off yesterday, I said I wasn't sure if we're going to finish this story today or tomorrow. I think it's going to be tomorrow, unless I read super duper fast and we don't talk at all, but got a time limit, so I think we'll just make it through tomorrow. Let's do our pledge and our motto real quick and let's get started. All right, there's the flag. Salute and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Look, there's your little Kivley Kids poster. I should probably put that somewhere else so we can actually see it. But in the meantime, let's do this. Begin. We are students at Peter J. Shields. We believe in kindness. We are responsible. We are persistent. We are respectful. We are bucket fillers. We drop acts of kindness in everything we do. We are Peter J. Shields. And I hope this finds you well, my kiddos. This is just such a weird thing. I think I'm getting into routine, but it's just kind of weird to think that this is a routine. But I hope you guys are all doing well, and let's jump into James. Look at that, almost done. We've read all this. Chapter 35. Round and upside down went the peach as it plummeted toward the earth, and they were all clinging desperately to the stem to save themselves from being flung into space. Faster and faster it fell, down, 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 racing closer and closer to the houses, the streets, and all below, where it would surely smash into a million pieces when it hit. All along Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, and all along the other streets in the city, people who had not yet reached their underground shelters looked up and saw it coming. They stopped running. They stood staring in a sort of stupor, what they thought was the biggest bomb in all of the world falling out of the sky right onto their heads. A few screamed, others knelt down on the sidewalks and began praying out loud. Strong men turned to one another and said things like, "I guess this is it, Joe. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye." And for the next 30 seconds, the whole city held its breath, waiting for it to come to an end. Chapter 36. Goodbye, Ladybug, gasped James, clinging to the stem of the falling peach. Goodbye, Centipede. Goodbye, everybody. There were only a few seconds left to go now, and it looked as though they were going to fall right in among the tallest of buildings. James could see the skyscrapers rushing to meet them at the most awful speed, and most of them had square, flat tops. But the very tallest of them had a top that tapered into a long, sharp point, like an enormous silver needle sticking up in the sky. It was precisely on the top of this needle that the peach fell. There was a squelch, and the needle went in deep. And suddenly, there was the giant peach, caught and spiked upon the very pinnacle of the Empire State Building. So again, remember we talked yesterday, this book was written a long time ago, so at that time, the Empire State Building was the tallest building in New York City. So a lot of cool history around skyscrapers with New York City. Something else to research while you're bored. Chapter 37. It was really an amazing sight. And in 2 or 3 minutes, as soon as the people below realized that this now couldn't possibly be a bomb, they came pouring out of their shelters and subways to gape at the marvel. The streets for half a mile around the building were jammed with men and women, and when the word spread that there were actually living things moving about on top of the great round ball, everyone went wild with excitement. "Oh, it's a flying saucer," they said. They're from outer space. They are men from Mars. Or maybe they came from the moon. And a man who had a pair of binoculars to his eyes said, they look pretty peculiar to me. I'll tell you that. Police cars and fire engines came screaming in from all over the city and pulled up outside the Empire State Building. 200 firemen and 600 policemen swarmed the building and went up the elevators as high as they could go. They poured out onto the observation roof, which is the place where the tourists stand, just at the bottom of the big spike. All the policemen were holding their guns at the ready with their fingers on the triggers, and the firemen were clutching their hatchets. But from where they stood almost directly underneath the peach, they couldn't actually see any of the travelers on top. "Ahoy there!" shouted the chief of police. "Come out and show yourselves!" Suddenly, a great brown head of the centipede appeared over the top. His eyes, black, as large and round as 2 marbles, glared down at the policemen and the firemen below. Then his monstrous, ugly face broke into a wide grin. The policemen and the firemen all started shouting at once. "Look out!" they cried. "It's a dragon!" "It's It's not a dragon, it's a wampus, it's a gorgon, it's a sea serpent, it's a manicore. 3 firemen and 5 policemen fainted and had to be carried away. It's a snozwinger, said the chief of police. It's a wing doodle, yelled the head of the fire department. The centipede just kept on grinning. Remember, he wants to be famous. Sorry. He seemed to be enjoying this enormous commotion that he was causing. Now see here, shouted the chief of police, cupping his hands around his mouth. You listen to me. I want you to tell me exactly where you've come from. We've come from thousands of miles away, the centipede shouted back, grinning more broadly than ever and showing his brown teeth. There you are, cried the chief of police. I told you they came from Mars. Well, I guess you're right, said the head of the fire department. At this point, the old green grasshopper poked his head, huge green head, over the side of the peach alongside the centipedes. 6 more big, strong men fainted and they saw him. That one's an oink, said the head of fire department. I just know it is. Or a cockatrice, yelled the chief of police. Stand back, men. It may jump down on us at any moment. What on earth are they talking about? The old green grasshopper said to Centipede. Search me, the centipede answered. But they seemed to be an awful stew about something. Then Miss Spider's large, black, murderous-looking head, which to a stranger was probably the most terrifying of all, appeared next to the green grasshopper. Snakes and ladders, yelled the head of the fire department. We are finished now. It's a giant scorpula. Worse than that, said the chief of police. It's a vermicious canid. Ooh, just look at its vermicious, gruesome face. Is that the kind that eats fully grown men for breakfast? The head of the fire department asked, going white as a sheet. I'm afraid it is, the chief of police answered. Oh, please, why doesn't anyone help get us down from here? Miss Spider called out. It's making me giddy. Ooh, this could be a trick, the fire department head said. Don't anyone make a move until I say. They've probably got space guns, murmured the chief of police. But we've got to do something, the head of the fire department said grimly. About 5 million people are standing down there on the streets watching us. Then why don't you pick up a ladder, chief of police said. And put up the ladder and I'll stand at the bottom and hold it for you while you go up and see what's happening. Thanks very much, snapped the head of the fire department. Soon, there were no less than 7 large, fantastic faces peering down over the side of the peach. The centipedes, the old green grasshoppers, Miss Spiders, the earthworm, the ladybug, the silkworm, the glowworm. And a sort of panic began to break out below among the firemen and the policemen. Then all at once the panic stopped and a great gasp of astonishment went around. For now, a small boy was seen standing beside the other creatures. His hair was blowing in the wind and he was laughing and waving and calling out, Hello, everybody, hello! For a few moments, the men below just stood and stared and gaped. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. Bless my soul, cried the head of the fire department, going red in the face. It is a little boy, isn't it? Don't be frightened of us, please, James called out. We are so glad to be here. What about those others beside you? Shouted the chief of police. Are any of them dangerous? Well, of course they're not dangerous, James answered. They are the nicest creatures in all the world. Allow me to introduce them to you one by one, and then I'm sure you will believe me. My friends, this is Centipede, and let me make it known. He is sweet and gentle, although he's overgrown. The Queen of Spain again and again was summoned him by phone to babysit and sing and knit and be a chaperone. When nurse is off and all the royal children are alone, small wonder, said firemen, they're no longer on the throne. The earthworm, on the other hand, said James, beginning to expand, is great for digging up the land and making old soils newer. Moreover, you should understand, he would be absolutely grand for digging subway tunnels and for making you a sewer. The earthworm blushed and beamed with pride. Miss Spider clapped and cheered and cried. Could any words be truer? And the green grasshopper, ladies and gents, is a boon in millions and millions of ways. You have to ask him to give you a tune. And he plays and he plays and he plays. As for a toy for your young children, he's perfectly sweet. There's nothing so good in the shops. You've only got to tickle the soles of his feet, and he hops, and he hops, and he hops. He can't be fierce, exclaimed the head of all the cops. And now, without excuse, I'd like to introduce this charming glowworm, lover of simplicity. She is easy to install on your ceiling or on your wall. And although this smacks a bit of eccentricity, it's rather clever. For thereafter you will never, never, never have the slightest need for electricity. At which no less than 52 policemen cried, "Is this true? That creature will get some fabulous publicity." And here we have Miss Spider with a mile of thread inside her, who has personally requested me to say that she's never met Miss Muffet on her charming little tuffet. If she had, she'd not have frightened her away. Should her looks sometimes alarm you, then I don't think it would harm you to repeat at least 100 times a day, I must never kill a spider. I must only help and guide her and invite her to the nursery to play. The police all nodded slightly, and the fireman said politely, and about a dozen people cried, "Hooray." And here's my darling Ladybug, so beautiful, so kind, my greatest comfort since this trip began. She has 400 children, she's left them all behind. And they're coming on the next peach if they can. The cops cried, "She's entrancing." All the firemen started dancing, and the crowds all started cheering to a man. And now the silkworm James went on, whose silk will bear comparison with all the greatest silks there are in Rome and Philadelphia. If you would search the whole world through, from Paraguay to Timbuktu, I don't think you would find one bit of silk that you can compare with it. Even shops in Singapore don't have this stuff. And what is more, the silkworm had, I'll have you know, the honor not so long ago to spin and weave and sew and press the Queen of England's wedding dress. And she's already made and sent a waistcoat for you, your president. Well, good for her, the cops cried out. And all at once a mighty shout went up around the Empire State. "Let's get them down at once. Why wait?" And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we must leave off today. I hope you guys have a great day. Get outside and get some fresh air when you can. And just keep hanging in there. Maybe we're starting to get in a routine. And we'll just make this work as best we can. Take care, be safe, not too much screen time. That's why we're only doing this 15 minutes. We love you and we care about you. We'll see you tomorrow.